Rece Davis back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Rece?
I'm doing great, Rich. How are you?
Well, how's your bracket?
Screwed up, but your Wolverines are still standing tall for me, so that's about it.
How far do you have them going?
I have them going to the Final Four.
Ooh.
And I had Villanova and Arizona playing for the championship, so that's not good. And I have Michigan State in the Final Four as well. And this coming after, because I've got great respect for Izzo and but every year I get seduced and I end up taking them to the Final Four. And before the brackets came out, I said, no matter what, I'm not picking Michigan State to go to the Final Four. And then I did.
And
I don't know why I did.
Hey, look, you've got some history with the state of Michigan, spent some time in Flint back in the day. I mean, Izzo's taking a beating right now based on that. Do you think it's deserved, Rece?
I'm assuming you're just talking basketball.
Yes. After the loss to Syracuse.
Yeah, no, they didn't play well, and there's enough blame to go around for everybody. I don't think it means he's diminished as a coach or didn't have a good game plan. I mean, they just didn't. They couldn't. I guess what I'm saying is it couldn't have been their game plan to stand around and launch threes. They didn't get enough movement. They didn't get into the middle of the zone. But that's tough to do against Syracuse. But they should have. They're the better team. Michigan State's a better team than Syracuse, and it's a loss that shouldn't have happened. And when that happens at a program like that, you're going to get beat up a little bit, and you probably deserve a couple of punches, but not anything over the top. It doesn't mean he's lost his touch or, he's not a great coach in the tournament anymore, which I, heard somebody throwing out earlier today. Well, I think that's silly. But in that particular game, they didn't play or coach well.
And Syracuse can just make you look awful.
Yep.
I mean, that 2-3 zone. How do you and now here comes Duke with a similar defensive scheme. How do you think that's going to be playing out coming in?
I think Duke playing so much zone this year will actually help them. And they've got a number of guys that can make plays in the middle of it. Wendell Carter and Marvin Bagley are, hands full going high-low. You got shooters. I think Duke will handle them. Now, Syracuse knows how to play them, but I think the reverse of that is true also. So I think Duke will move on. I think Syracuse's magical run will come to an end now.
And let's get into the UMBC of it all, man. That was incredible. And again, I say that just fully knowing that the loss for anybody that I know with Virginia. I know some friends. I texted them. I saw Chris Long with about 5 minutes to go tweet out "Goodbye Twitter." Has he tweeted since then, Brockman, at all?
I don't think so.
Could that possibly be Joel91, Chris Long's farewell to Twitter? I mean, that was.
Oh no, he did tweet last night. Okay. Another 1 seed went down. I'm back on this website,
baby. But that really was. That's why we watch this tournament, Rece. Right?
Yes. Typically what happens, though, is the elation that you feel at watching history in the first round then absolutely ruins the next couple of rounds. I don't know that was the case in this particular instance, but I can't fathom how that happened. One of the things I tweeted out as I was watching that game was, I can't explain this, and I don't want to, because that's part of the magic. This team lost by 40 points to Albany. They lost by 25 at home to Vermont. They had no business beating Virginia, and yet they did. And one of the reasons we enjoy this tournament, Rich, is because of the human element. As it became more and more serious, you could see the weight of the world falling on Virginia's shoulders and the panic setting in. And it's not like that you enjoy seeing that, but it's dramatic. And you see the confidence rising on the other side. And it's why it's compelling to people who are big basketball fans and some who are just casual sports fans. You can still enjoy the human drama element of it.
And then, Kansas State avoided being the first 9 seed to lose to a 16. And they're part of our poll question, Brockman. Ask it of Rece Davis, please. Go for it.
Which Cinderella has the best chance to advance, Rece? The 2 7s, Texas A&M, Nevada, the 2 9s, Kansas State, Florida State, or the 2 11s, Syracuse, Loyola, Chicago?
I'm going to go with A&M because A&M is a top 3 or 4 line talent team, but they certainly are deserving of where they were seated based on the way they played this year. But talent-wise, they're elite. So I would go with the sevens just because of A&M.
So those who might not be familiar with the Aggies season, why were they seated so low?
Well, they got off to a pretty good start. They hammered West Virginia. I think the game was played in Germany early and kind of played well in the non-conference. And for some inexplicable reason, they did have some suspensions. They had some injuries. They started conference play in the SEC 0-5, I think, and sort of stumbled around and then kind of got it back together later in the season, put together a little surge in February. But they've got explosive athletes. They've got shooters. I think everybody that's watched the tournament has seen, Williams have his head fly up around the top of the square. And, they overpowered North Carolina last night. So they were seated lower largely because they didn't perform well in the middle of the season, early part of SEC play, and really, I would say, into February a little bit when they started playing a little bit better. And then, they probably hurt themselves, too, because they lost early in the SEC tournament on Colin Sexton's buzzer beater. So, they've been up and down for sure, but they played really well in the NCAA tournament.
So if I gave you, Rece Davis, an opportunity to re-choose right now, I think there is some way that you could probably go on ESPN.com and choose a bracket from 16 on through right now. Mm-hmm. I would go to be honest with you, I would go Duke versus Kentucky right now. What would you say, Rece?
I'm gonna stick with Villanova, Rich. I mean, I would still have Villanova and Michigan in the Final Four, but I would agree with you that I would have Kentucky and Duke going to Final Four too.
Because you take a look at it, and again, I'm loath to say this because we've seen so many of these upsets. I mean, there's never been a 5 seed go to a regional final packing only their home uniforms. That's never happened before.
Yeah. And Cal got on our show that night, and he was, whining and complaining about their seed. But doing it in highly entertaining fashion. I mean, basically every time we have Cal on, we wind up like 5-6 minutes heavy, and it's because, the producer's saying, should we get out of this? And I'm in talkback going, no, just let him go, because he's wildly entertaining on television. But he's also done a really good job with his team, and they've improved. I think it goes to show you that seeding is important, and I do think that they misseeded that region. But then, as it turns out, once the game started, it doesn't matter because the whole bracket got blown up anyway. So it was you just have to play the team that's in front of you. But it is good theater when Cal starts talking about making us fly to Boise and play on Thursday. They couldn't even let us wait until Friday and all of that. It's entertaining.
So you still take Michigan, huh? I mean,
I do. I've liked them, Rich. The funny thing is I've liked them all season, but when I really became totally sold on them, I called their game at Purdue, and they lost. But that Purdue team was playing great, long winning streak, and it took every drop that Purdue had in a raucous atmosphere in Mackey to beat Michigan. And Michigan has a lot of tough matchups, I think, for other teams. They're a veteran team. Beilein's a really good tournament coach. I think I really love Wagner and Abdur Rahman. I really think those guys are terrific players and a little bit underrated, particularly Abdur Rahman, I think, is underrated as a player. So I'm sticking with Michigan. I know they were very fortunate to get past Houston. But now that they did, everybody needs one of those. I still think we'll see the Wolverines in San Antonio.
Yeah, okay. Before I let you go, I'm gonna go there. And there being this, since I'm speaking to the host of Game Day of both college basketball and football, just seeing this tournament, Rece, why aren't we expanding the football playoffs? Could you imagine if it was a 3-week foray, just like the one that we're about to witness in college basketball? Could you imagine if it was like that for college football in December all the way through to mid-January?
I think that would be too big, Rich. I really do, and I know that you and I don't agree on this.
Yeah.
I think the number 4 is right for the moment. I think there's going to come a time in the next few years when it's probably going to go to 8, and I think there will need to be some radical adjustments made, namely, what are you going to do with conference championship games?
Hopefully. Get rid of them.
Yeah,
Just
that's what I say. I agree with you. If you got rid of them and made it 8 teams first round on campus, I would be more in for doing it now. But right now, I think 4 is good. The flip side of it is this. when you see a team like, and I know this is a 1 out of 136 times, but you see a team like Virginia, which dominated the regular season. They clearly were the best and most consistent team in the regular season, and then they step in the empty elevator shaft, and it's done against a team that accomplished nowhere near what they did in the regular season. So, you put out, if you expand the football playoff, I mean, I can't imagine going past 8, but if you went past 8 to 16, as I've heard, I understand there's some drama, but you throw out unnecessary landmines out there for teams that have accomplished a lot in the regular season. College basketball has a regular season problem right now in terms of viewership, in terms of interest, in terms of fannies in the seats. And college football is starting already, even though it's still wildly popular in ratings. Attendance is an issue some places. You diminish the regular season, I think you have to take a really long-term, big-picture view of that before you just get caught up in wanting to have 3 exciting weeks or 4 exciting weeks or whatever it might be.
Always a great chatting with you, Rece. Look forward to watching your coverage all the way through to San Antonio.
All right, Rich. Thanks, buddy.
You got it. It's Rece Davis at ESPN_Rece, RECE Davis.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.